pledged to apprehend those responsible for the desecration and prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. Meanwhile, Randolph Carter University has confirmed the safe arrival of a sarcophagus discovered in Egypt last week. This following the explosion of a fertilizer warehouse and resultant discovery of a shaft leading to a lost tomb more than a mile below the streets of Cairo. The Egyptian government's Ministry of Tourism and Antiques, which normally forbids the removal of cultural artifacts from the nation, has allowed the transportation of a sarcophagus found in the tomb to the United States under the protection of Egyptian officials for three-dimensional scanning and genetic testing to determine its identity. Dubbed the Forgotten Pharaoh, academics at RCU have expressed excitement at this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Hopefully it will take their minds off of the ongoing heat wave in the Los Angeles area, because the forecast predicts no end in sight.
This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Important information will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the National Weather Service. This is a special weather statement. A heat advisory is in effect for the following areas: Orange County, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, Kern County, Santa Barbara County, Riverside County, and San Bernardino County. Temperatures are expected to remain in excess of 100 degrees Fahrenheit for the foreseeable future. This poses a serious risk of heat-related illness to all persons in the affected area, most notably persons working outdoors or in buildings or rooms that are not climate-controlled. Cooling stations have been approved for public use in the affected area. Locations of public cooling stations in your area can be found online at www.lacounty.gov or by calling your local police department's non-emergency number. At this time, all persons should take the following steps to protect themselves. Avoid traveling outside or in direct sunlight. If you must travel outside, cover all exposed skin to prevent sunburn. Wear sunglasses to prevent flash blindness. Remain hydrated at all times. The average person must consume between 2 and 3 liters of water every day to survive. Avoid overexertion, which may lead to increased sweating and further illness. Monitor yourself and others for the signs of heat-related illness. Symptoms include, but are not limited to, shallow breathing, vomiting, dizziness, muscle cramps, delirium, severe headache, elevated heart rate, irritability, and flushing of the skin. If the victim stops sweating, it is a sign of critical dehydration and emergency treatment is required. Move the victim into a cool, shaded
Numerous one-of-a-kind artifacts within the tomb, including jewels, ritual items, elaborate paintings, and documents, including the long-lost ritual book known as the Ibn al-Azif. Archaeologists are working tirelessly day and night to uncover the secrets of the tomb and its occupants. Meanwhile, back in the States, the lead researcher for the Forgotten Pharaoh project, William Dyer, was pronounced dead this morning. Los Angeles police have attributed his death to, quote, extremely mysterious circumstances, and have yet to name an official cause of death. Rumors abound, however, with some speculating it to be the work of one or more persons protesting the removal of the sarcophagus from Egypt. What we doing today? Not great, honestly. I haven't been getting a lot of sleep lately. Why is that? I keep having these really vivid dreams. Well, I guess you could say nightmares, really. I keep waking up 3, 4 times a night. Usually I just roll over and go back to sleep, but I've been waking up exhausted almost every day. I see. It sounds like you've been going through a lot lately. Is it the same dream every time? Sort of. Like, it's the same setting every time, but the things that happen or who I am, they're always different. Would you like to share it with me? Yeah, oh, sorry. God, I'm ready to fall asleep right here on the couch. It always takes place in Egypt. Ancient Egypt, at least I think it is. There's no pyramids or sphinx or anything, but in the dream, like, I know implicitly that it's Egypt. Sometimes I'm a nobleman, sometimes I'm a scribe, sometimes I'm a slave. It's different every time. Who were you last night? Last night, I was a child. I remember someone dragging me by the hand between a bunch of people all kneeling on the ground. They were, what's the word? Prostrate. There was 100 people prostrating themselves in front of this little stone building the size of a tool shed. This guy, I don't know who he is, just some fucking guy. He's pulling my hand, dragging me towards this little building, and I'm screaming and shouting and trying to get away. I don't know why, I just know that I don't want to go to that building. You getting all this? I'm just taking a few notes. Please continue. So he's dragging me along, and I'm screaming and crying, and we finally get to the building. It's dark inside, and all I can see is this set of stairs going down. No light, just cold darkness. And the man pushes me down the stairs into this underground, I don't know, some kind of cellar maybe. I find myself in this big room and I can't see anything. I'm feeling around the walls looking for a way out, and I try to find the stairs, but they're just gone. Just gone. And I'm walking through these corridors, lost as hell, and then I hear something in there with me. What do you think it is underground with you? I have no idea. The only thing I know is it's fast and it's got this one big three-lobed orange thing that glows in the dark. And it's chasing me through this maze, this fucking underground labyrinth. And I'm just running as fast as I can, blind as a bat, and I can hear this thing getting closer and closer. I try to scream, but nothing comes out, and right before it finally gets me, I wake up. I wake up in bed, out of breath, my heart going a mile a minute, bed sheets soaked with sweat. Someone actually called campus security on me earlier this week because they heard screaming coming from my room. This bullshit has been going on for 5 or 6 days already. I don't know how much more I can take. How do you feel about darkness? Well, I'm not afraid of the dark, if that's what you mean. Well, I mean, at least I wasn't before this all started. Now I leave the TV on at night when I go to bed. Like, I know that there's nothing in the dark. There's literally nothing to be afraid of, but when I turn the lights off, I get this feeling that something is there watching me. And this feeling gets worse and worse, and before I know it, it feels like I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I have to turn the lights on again. I see. From what you've described, it sounds perfectly reasonable to want to avoid the dark after what you've been through. I'm sorry, would you excuse me? This line's only for emergencies. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hello? I'm with a client right now. What is it? What? Okay, just don't... Just listen to me. Don't touch anything. I want you to calm down and go outside, okay? Then I want you to call the police and wait there until they arrive. I'll be there in 45 minutes, okay? Okay, you call the police now, and I'll be there soon. Okay. Love you too. Bye. Sorry, but we're gonna have to cut our session short today. Is everything okay? No, it's just... my cousin went and did something stupid. Oh. So we'll have to reschedule. Yeah, of course. Just call me when you can and we'll work it out. Thank you for understanding. I'm gonna ask you to start keeping a dream journal and I'll review today's recording and schedule for a follow-up session as soon as I can, okay? Yeah, sure. So it's about 48 hours later, I've finally gotten around to reviewing the tape. Seems to have developed an acute case of nyctophobia, probably due to repeated trauma involving darkness in his nightmares. The lack of restful sleep isn't helping either. Content of his dreams suggests he's dealing with some significant stresses in his waking life. I'll have to ask him about that in more detail next time we meet. What's more concerning is the similarities between dreams and those of 6 other students. They all seem to share a common theme revolving around Egypt. Maybe it's just regular nightmares taking shape from what's in the media lately. That, combined with the heat wave, it's no wonder people aren't sleeping well. I'm going to put in an email to maintenance and ask them to make sure all the AC systems are working. Once nightmares stop, the nyctophobia should pass too. Otherwise, I'll have to recommend exposure therapy.
This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Important information will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the National Weather Service. This is a special weather statement. Ongoing extreme heat and lack of rainfall has resulted in drought conditions throughout Southern California. The combination of extremely hot and arid conditions has created an environment in which wildfires are extremely likely to occur and are expected to spread quickly. A wildfire watch is in effect for the following areas: Orange County, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, and San Bernardino County. At this time, revised water restrictions are in effect for the following areas: Orange County, Los Angeles County, Ventura County, Kern County, San Bernardino County, Riverside County, Santa Barbara County, San Diego County, Imperial County, and San Luis Obispo County. Persons in the affected areas are now limited to 40 gallons of water per person per day. Violators will be subject to a minimum fine of $500 per offense. Repeat offenders of the revised water restrictions will be subject to arrest and incarceration. Continue to monitor yourselves and others for symptoms of dehydration and heat-related illness. Please remain calm. Your cooperation is appreciated.
Presenting a special on the recently discovered tomb featuring an interview with acclaimed expert Bob Carteret, who is due to return from the site later this week. The special will air at 6 p.m. on the 21st, only on WBRD. Don't miss it. In other news, climate scientists have taken a special interest in events on the West Coast this month. According to a statement issued by the National Weather Service, rising sea temperatures have altered air currents over the Pacific, creating a self-sustaining heat dome centered over Los Angeles County. This has accelerated desertification on the western edge of the Mojave Desert and has affected plant and animal life in the affected areas. Of particular note is the sudden influx of invasive dung beetles in Southern California, drawn from the Algodones dunes by the hot, arid conditions. Following the death or migration of various species of predatory birds and reptiles, the dung beetle population has exploded, and the insects have been reported in towns including Escondido, San Bernardino, Pomona, Pasadena, Los Angeles, and even as far north as Santa Barbara.
This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Information vital to your safety will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the National Weather Service. A dust storm warning has been issued for the following areas until 4 o'clock this afternoon: Los Angeles, Culver City, Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, Malibu, Burbank, Alhambra, El Segundo, Manhattan Beach, Maywood, Westwood, Inglewood, Huntington Park, Southgate, Bell, Linwood, Vernon City, Glendale, Van Nuys, Panorama City, Reseda, Encino, Topanga, Hawthorne, Hollywood, Commerce, and Pico Rivera. Expect visibility to be reduced to 1/4 mile or less. Persons in the affected area should avoid traveling on foot or driving at this time. If you are currently driving, pull to the side of the road and turn off your vehicle. Activate your hazard lights to alert other drivers to your position. Remain in your vehicle until the all clear is given or you are able to safely take shelter inside of a sturdy building. If you are forced to venture outside at this time, cover your nose and mouth to avoid inhaling dust. Avoid traveling on or across roads, as drivers may not be able to see you. Remain in your shelter until the all clear is given. Emergency services may not be available at this time. Please remain calm. Your cooperation is appreciated.
Ongoing state of emergency in the Los Angeles area where recent changes to local air currents have blanketed the city and neighboring areas with flying dust and sand. Whereas most dust storms last at most a few minutes, the phenomenon choking Southern California is now in its third day. Electrostatic charges caused by the swirling sediment have even generated bolts of lightning throughout the high-speed cyclone of suffocating dust.
This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Information vital to your safety will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the National Weather Service. This is an emergency update. The dust storm warning, which was issued at 3 p.m. on September 16th, has been extended indefinitely. All persons receiving this message are ordered to remain in their shelter until the all clear is given, where you are ordered to evacuate by civil authorities. Intermittent power failures have been reported throughout the affected areas. Persons in the affected area should be prepared to lose power for an unspecified amount of time. Civil authorities are currently working to locate and evacuate residents to dedicated shelters in the affected areas. Please stand by for a list of dedicated shelters. If you are able to contact civil authorities and alert them to your location, do so now. Please remain calm. Your cooperation is appreciated. Please stand by for a list of dedicated shelters. Please stand by for a list of dedicated shelters. Please stand by.
With me this afternoon is Bob Carteret, head of the Department of Egyptology and Ancient Western Asian Studies at Brown University. Bob, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Eli.
Now, I understand you've just returned from Cairo, where you were studying this tomb that opened up last month.
Well, the tomb that got exploded into, yeah.
Yes, of course. I hope it wasn't too badly damaged by the explosion.
Well, the uppermost sections aren't in great shape. A lot of artifacts and statues were destroyed in the blast, and some pieces were mistakenly carted away during the cleanup effort before anyone realized the tomb was there. But deeper underground, it's almost pristine. We found things we thought were just legends, stories from thousands of years ago.
Really? And what exactly are these legends?
Well, before I begin, you have to understand something. See, when people think of ancient Egypt, they think of something like in biblical times. They imagine people hauling tons of sandstone bricks to build pyramids, and that this is where Egypt's story begins. But the truth is that, by the time the current era began, Egyptian society was already thousands of years old. Many of the mysteries that defy us today were also mysteries to Egyptians more than 2,000 years ago.
Amazing. I had no idea it was so old. Please continue.
These stories have been passed down for apparently millennia, but the earliest records of them outside of Egypt dates back to the 15th century, written down by Ludwig Prynne in his so-called grimoire, De Vermis Mysteris.
Mysteries of
the worm, yeah. It was apparently a book of spells that was suppressed after Prynne's execution as a witch sometime in the late 1400s. Among various magical instructions and myths of ancient cults, Prynne writes about an Egypt ruled by a priest-turned-pharaoh called Nefren-Ka. He was the leader of a religious movement that gained power sometime around 2700 BCE at the end of the early dynastic era. This movement revolved around the worship of a god known as Nyarlathotep, which we believe today to be an amalgam of other ancient gods from that era, due to similarities between him and other gods worshipped throughout human history. The practitioners of this ancient religion, under the guidance of Nefren-Ka, believed they could be granted magical powers through conducting rituals in the name of Nyarlathotep, including human sacrifice.
I see. And how long did this pharaoh's rule last?
Well, not very. In fact, it didn't even outlive him. Eventually, the people of Egypt rose up and revolted against Nefren-Ka and his supporters. Temples were smashed, his followers were killed in the streets, and all records of Nefren-Ka and his rule were stricken from history.
So whatever became of the pharaoh himself?
He and the last of his servants fled into exile into what is modern-day Cairo, pursued by the new rulers of Egypt. According to Prynne, Nefren Ka sought to reach the British Isles, but was surrounded before he could escape Egypt. In desperation, Nefren Ka ordered his servants to dig a shelter deep under the desert, where they and their secrets could remain safely hidden. Once the temple, what we now call his tomb, was complete, he and 100 of his servants had those remaining on the surface inter them alive. It's thanks to these few who were left outside the shelter that the legend of Nefren Ka exists at all.
Amazing. And a whole city was built on top of his tomb without anyone ever realizing.
There's more. Legend has it that Nefren Ka's worship of Nyarlathotep continued underground. See, Nefren Ka desired above all the gift of prophecy, and he believed that through his dark worship, his god would grant it to him. According to the story, the pharaoh ordered his servants to sacrifice their own lives, and that every single one of them did. After the sacrifice, it said that Nyarlathotep himself appeared to Nefren Ka and merged with him, giving the pharaoh the gift of prophecy that he wanted. The lost king spent the remainder of his days in that dark catacomb, wandering around between the corpses, painting his prophecies on the walls in his dead follower's blood.
Oh wow, this should be a movie. I mean, I've got chills.
He continued that way until his body finally started to give out. Then, the legend says, he crawled into his sarcophagus, closed the lid, and died.
Wow, I'm just dumbfounded by all of this. Just absolutely gobsmacked.
Of course, this is all just a legend, but we have found traces of human blood on the walls of the tomb, and we have found the remains of around 87 humans so far, not counting the sarcophagus that was flown here to America a few weeks ago. We've also found numerous artifacts, including a ceremonial jewel believed by the worshippers of Nyarlathotep to be a sort of conduit by which to summon him. It's all very fascinating. In fact, I'd be willing to say that this is the biggest discovery in the field of Egyptology since Howard Carter found King Tut's tomb in 1922.
It sure sounds like it. If you'd like to stay with us, Bob, we'll be taking calls from listeners about the history of Egypt and the legend of Nefren Ka right after the break.
Victim was discovered in his bed at approximately 10:15 the following morning. Body shows no sign of violence or struggle, and toxicology shows no signs of foreign substances, aside from a negligible amount of acetaminophen and a blood alcohol content of 0.04. I am seeing some white crusting in and around the nose and mouth, as well as in the esophagus and trachea, determined to be a combination of saliva, mucus, sodium bicarbonate, and sodium carbonate decahydrate, a substance commonly known as natron. Further examination of the respiratory system suggests the victim aspirated a large quantity of natron immediately prior to death. Examination of the thoracic cavity supports this idea, as the victim's lungs contained a significant amount of the substance, with alveolar pathways being almost totally blocked. Cyanosis of the face and hands, as well as an immediately noticeable dilation of the veins, leads me to conclude that the victim's cause of death was asphyxiation caused by the aspiration of a large quantity of natron. As for the means by which such aspiration occurred, I leave that to the detectives assigned to the case. I am inclined to report this death as accidental. However, it seems extremely unlikely that the sheer amount of salt in Mr. Dyer's lungs accumulated there naturally without prior ill effect. I am therefore logging Mr. Dyer's death as undetermined and remanding the body into the custody of the Los Angeles Police Department.
This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Information vital to your safety will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the National Weather Service. This is an emergency update. The dust storm warning that was issued at 3 p.m. on September 16th remains in effect, with sustained wind speeds currently reaching between 90 and 125 miles per hour. Los Angeles County officials estimate the number of deaths attributed to the storm to be between 1,500 and 2,000 at this time. Extended power and radio communications failures have been reported in the following area. This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Information vital to your safety will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the Los Angeles Police Department, under the authority of the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors. A dangerous situation is currently taking place in Westwood Village. Numerous deaths have been reported at Randolph-Carter University over the past 24 hours. According to witnesses, victims experienced an illness for several days before entering a trance-like state and performing ritualistic ceremonies in the Egyptology department, culminating in acts of murder and suicide. Civil authorities at Randolph-Carter University have reported an unidentified figure levitating approximately 3,000 feet above the ground, moving eastward in the direction of central Los Angeles. Data from the National Weather Service shows that the epicenter of the storm is also moving eastward at a speed of approximately 15 miles per hour. At this time, a mandatory evacuation has been issued for the whole of Los Angeles County, effective immediately. This message is a broadcast of the emergency alert system. This is not a test. Information vital to your safety will soon follow. This message is broadcast at the request of the Los Angeles Police Department, under the authority of the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors. This is a civil danger warning. A dangerous situation is currently taking place in the city of Los Angeles. An unauthorized assembly is taking place at Dodger Stadium. Witnesses report that persons within the stadium are participating in ritualistic acts of violence against their will, including acts of murder and suicide, under the instruction of an unidentified individual levitating over the crowd. No further information is currently available. At this time,
all persons remaining in the Los Angeles area are advised to seek shelter in Dodger Stadium immediately. Do not attempt to leave the city. Escape is impossible. All shall kneel to the will of Nifrit God.